Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Carlos. I am from Colombia and I study at the BCC. So I'm going to talk today about the McLaren F1, which I consider is one of the most iconic cars in history. And we're going to start talking about the brand. So it was created in 1963 by Bruce McLaren. It was created to be a race company. So they first started introducing cars to race. They entered the first car in 1965. It's the first Formula One in the Grand Prix of Monaco. They are also the first ones creating a car with carbon fiber. They started using the carbon fiber to do a race car. Between 1988 and 1991, they won the Drivers' Championship for 7 times. And they also won in 1988 15 out of 16 races, which was a lot. So they were leading a lot. They won every lap. They were leading every lap, but top 27. So it's a big thing. So unfortunately, Bruce McLaren died in 1970 in a car accident. So now the production of the McLaren F1 started in 1992. And it was until 1998. They created 106 vehicles in total. There was supposed to be 300 initially, but because of the market and they had inflation and everything, so they only could create 106, which now they're much more expensive than what were initially. So the idea of the McLaren F1 was to create the finest and the most fastest car, and that's why they did after 1988. After the Grand Prix of Italy, they started doing that, and I think they achieved that. So Gordon Murray, he was in charge of the configuration of the vehicle. He started thinking about an idea since 1969, and 20 years later, it was put into production with the McLaren F1. The configuration was the driver's seat in the front and then 2 seats right behind the driver for passengers. That had good advantages where the driver could see perfectly from both sides of the car, and also they could bring everything towards the front. So now the driver was a little bit further in the front, and they also brought the gas tank into the middle of the vehicle, generating a better balance for the vehicle. So that was something very nice. The heart of this car is a BMW engine, a V12, actually very powerful, 6.1 liter. It's a very, very, very nice engine, and it started producing a little over 620 horsepower. So it was something very nice for that year. They initially asked Honda to do it, but they regret to do an engine that big. And this is actually a natural aspirate engine. It doesn't have turbo or anything like that. So it's something very nice. The disadvantages of having the seat in the front, though, were that the access to the driver's seat was a little difficult. They tried to solve that somehow with a butterfly door, so they open to the top, so it makes it a little easier to go inside. Some of the things they thought about the design of the vehicle were to make it light. So they didn't introduce any traction control or ABS. So it's just pure skills of driving. You have 628 horsepower in your rear tires, and you have to know how to handle that. And but they also know it was going to be a road car, something that you can have on the road, something to enjoy. So they kept the AC and the stereo system, which Kenwood actually created the lightest system at that time with 10 CDs charger. So it's something very nice. Also, this car was one of the first cars using carbon fiber also for the chassis, not just the panels, but the chassis as well. And the use of aluminum for, like for example, the suspension and brakes. So this car is very light. So in comparison with the Bugatti EV110, the McLaren F1 is 430 kilograms lighter than the Bugatti. So it's a very light, it's a kind of small car, but very powerful. Between the aerodynamics that it has two fans that suck air from the ground of the car and throw it out to the wings. So it makes a little bit of downforce for the car when it's going fast. There's just a few trims from this car. It was initially a road car, so if the F1 is the road car, then we have the GT. The GT is basically the same car. It doesn't have any mechanically difference. The only difference in the body, it has a longer tail and longer front bumper. It has a lip, so that makes it easier to turn. This car is not easy to turn. And we have the LM, which is basically the straight version from the GTR. So they added higher aerodynamics, a lip, and a higher back wing. So it's a much easier to drive and everything, but it's not as fast as the original F1. And last but not least, we have the GTR, which was actually is the first car winning at Le Mans, being produced as a road car. So it came from a road car, and then they brought it to the Le Mans, and they won the first race. So the first race they actually went into, they won it. So it's nice. And we have the records. This car has a lot of records actually that held for a very long time. It went to 241 miles per hour. So it was the fastest car at the time, and it still has one record, which is the fastest car with the naturally aspirated car engine. So nobody other car, we have fastest cars these days, but no one, they all have turbo, something like that, so they can break that speed record. And just only 106 were produced, and original price was set at 600 pounds. Now they could be sold for over $11 million. So it's a very special car. It still has some records, and that's why I think it's one of the most iconic cars in history. Thank you.